Welcome to Cosmic Roadmap. I'm your host, Melissa Lambor, Reiki Astrogeo guide and author. I support endless wanderers with where they are meant to be in the world. This podcast is for the digital nomad, the avid traveler, and aspiring globetrotter who is seeking their next destination on planet Earth. Join us as we venture around the world through people's stories and how astrogeography has connected them to their planetary energies and purpose. My special guest today is Lyndsey Harper. She founded her integrative counseling practice in 2018. She is also an international best-selling author and mother of two. She supports women navigating their own awakening during their motherhood journey through fertility, pre-natal, post-partum, and beyond. She combines different therapeutic modalities to empower the matriarch of the family to trust her decision-making process, deeply connect to her partner and children, and understand the energy mechanics of the family. So we met through our recent best-selling book, Lineage Speaks, that released on the 21st of January, and it's available on Amazon, and the proceeds continue to go to Alamu Girls, a wonderful organization helping young women in Kenya out of poverty. So I got the chance to read your chapter, and I was so amazed at the similarities in our spiritual awakening, especially with human design and how it compares to my journey into astrogeography. So welcome. And how has it been since our Astrogeo session, and how have the cosmic connections, like what has come up for you?
Yeah, it's been really enlightening. And although I can't necessarily immediately travel somewhere right now,
For
it's
many of
given
us.
me, it's given me a lot to think about. And I've been trying to tap into the different Pinterest boards, like how can I visually immerse myself into that energy and feel an activation or a transmission or something from that, or integrate with the food. When we talk about human design too, I'm a touch cognition. So how can I feel like some sort of textile, or even watch something that kind of more emotionally touches me? That is from, we were talking about Morocco had some great activations for me, or places in Africa. So how to integrate that.
And I love that you're incorporating the Pinterest like boards, because that's, I try to tell you to embody these planetary energies. So I love that, because the other thing that I usually, if you're very tactile, is to have an altar, right, with the crystals and maybe like textiles from a certain place. So I love that you're incorporating that.
Yeah, so I love how you brought up the Tanzanite from Tanzania and that sort of activation, because that's where the moon node,
your
soul purpose
energy. And I made sure to wear my Tanzanite ring right now so we can bring a little bit of that purpose energy.
Yeah, so I think for me, really wanting to tap into that more deeply is really cool to think about. And even though I can't make it to Tanzania right now, that like to incorporate the jewelry seems really fun to experiment with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my favorite way to incorporate that energy, especially from my connections with Southeast Asia. I love wearing batik and jewelry. So yeah, you find me running around in my kaftan all day. Just getting
I love that
energy.
I love that. So yeah, our session had me reflecting. It had me reflecting on, okay, so what do I have access to here where I'm at currently? And remind me of those energies again.
So you had in the San Francisco area, sun energy, which is all about illumination. So really allowing you to be seen in your business, and the Mars energy, which is the passion. So the passion to start something. And I know that we also touched upon how you have the passion to start something, but then it fizzles out. So there is a bit of that going on because of some disharmonious energies, I think, related to Pluto that may be affecting you in that region as well. So
yeah, and it's interesting because you'd think of starting and stopping things. We think of that as as negative connotation behind it, but also through a human design lens, like we know, like basic type wise, manifesting generators often can be labeled with that sort of characteristic about themselves. And I'm just a pure generator.
Okay.
So
And I'm a manifesting
I'm
generator.
okay, you're a
Yeah.
manifesting generator.
So
But
we
what's
tend to be
interesting,
fickle because we jump from one thing to another, like whatever lights us up.
yeah, and it's like a much more like changeable, multitasking, multi interests, very common. And even as children, you could really be labeled like stick with that sport or stick with playing that instrument. Like you need
Yeah.
to follow through with your commitments. And so that can be
Which
really
reminds me, growing up, I did try out the clarinet, and that didn't last long. It sounded like a dead goose, like playing the Jurassic Park theme. I'm like,
oh
yeah,
man,
this is not.
you're like on to the next.
Yes.
What is interesting and what, learning more about the disharmonious lines in the chart can kind of have it relates to where I can give myself more grace. And then when I look at it through my human design lens, I'm like, okay, I can see this is why I'm a little bit more susceptible to this. Everything makes so much sense, and you can have a tangible or visual form map that explains exactly why what's happening is
Exactly.
happening.
Yeah. And you even brought up an example that you have a house out in Lake Tahoe. You were like, this is like my retreat space, but you were having a retreat. You actually have this harmonious Saturn energy there. And that is actually it makes you retreat from other people. And that's what you were feeling, right? Like if you could go a
Mhm.
little deeper into that.
Yeah, this was our first because we just bought this house almost a year ago. And you'd think it shouldn't have too much bad energy in it necessarily. Brand new construction. So you'd think you're starting from a clean slate, but
Right.
that's not really how it has felt. It does feel like we're getting away when we go up there, like we're
Mm.
getting away from things, but it has also felt very like disharmonious, or other people, even my husband will be like, this house is cursed. It has some cursed energy. And
Yeah.
so that's just interesting. But, to take it back to the retreat part, when we did host sort of beta retreat to see how it felt and see how incorporating some of the workshops and activities we were doing up there went. And that all went great. Cold plunging, Wim Hof in Lake Tahoe, great.
Yeah.
Getting everybody to the house, great. Timing was a little bit off, but then once we started to do more ceremony, I really felt myself as not really wanting to engage how a lot of the other women were being much more close, much more intimate with each other in a very playful way. And I was not feeling that way at all. I was feeling very much separate. And I was okay with that though. And I realized that was the lesson of my experience for that retreat over that weekend. But then when you mentioned this disharmonious Saturn energy of the retreat, of pulling away,
Yeah. This
that just really
frustration.
resonated.
Yeah.
And there is frustration with that. Like,
Right.
I want to be a part of, but I don't. It's
And
so
And does
contradictory, or
and
it's a
does
push
that
pull.
yeah, does that make you want to run from that place? No. Or does it make you want to work with that energy of, okay, I need to
Mm,
understand how I am going to interact with people when I am around this energy, almost
mhm.
to serve you up a lesson, right?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think there's a little bit of both in there. I think without me really being aware of what was going on up there, I'd just be like, I'm not really wanting to go to Tahoe as much as I envisioned. And now that I'm more aware of it, I see it as there's a huge healing opportunity and growth
Mhm.
opportunity here. So how can I be really aware of that energy? And when I'm up there, almost move even slower when I go up there, move even more and do even more intentionally when I'm up there, because otherwise it's going to feel too chaotic. It's probably going to tax my nervous system a little bit. That's what it's felt like. I had the biggest fight of my life with my husband up there. This was some crazy shit that went
Yeah.
down like in the short time we've spent in the house.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have better memories there.
But it almost
But
triggers you to continue that healing.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it does feel like. So it's crazy. So this can be really helpful for people because otherwise you're just going to get in this space of labeling a certain location as negative, maybe even subconsciously. But now I realize, okay, yeah. Have you experienced working with those disharmonious energies for yourself? Do you have
Do. I
any
actually,
insight on that?
yeah, I live on my Pluto line, which tends to be, and it's a harmonious one, but that one in general tends to be considered like the disharmonious energy, like the Plutonian energy. It's all
Uh-huh.
about like the rebirth and transformation. So I do work with it. It's a roller coaster ride. And as long as you know that you're going to be confronted with shadows, then it's almost
Mm,
like accelerated healing. So in a similar sense as this Saturn energy that you were up against. So yeah, I love working with it. I let people know it's a thorn, right? It's a little thorn that you may come across, but don't fear it and don't run from it or completely put it on your blacklist, right? Like, no, we're never going
right.
to go there because you may encounter the most transformative moment of your life. You just never know.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Now, is there any other aspects to Saturn that you think are important to call out?
So it's funny because the
Is
Saturn energy, I consider it like the grandpa energy, right? Very
yeah.
patriarchal. It's all about like getting down to business, discipline, perseverance, just keep going. So it can almost overwork you. You may feel
Mm,
overworked in that energy. I almost feel like it almost gives you more energy to keep going, but you'll realize that
mm.
you are pushing yourself to exhaustion if you don't pay attention. So it's good for really getting down to business, like focusing when you don't have that focus. So I do recommend it when maybe you're working on another book, right? You need that focus
Uh-huh.
to get down and write. So
Okay. Even if it is a more disharmonious
yeah,
area, like,
when it's disharmonious, it tends to be a little bit out of whack. So
uh-huh.
yeah, you're not as focused. That's what happens there. And in this case, it's the opposite of being focused. You were retreating, right? You weren't being on task. So
Mm,
that's how it manifests.
interesting. Yeah, it will just be interesting to keep working with that up there. And we'll see how it plays out financially. I can't remember how Saturn plays into the financial realm. This is also a vacation rental where we're using it personally, using it for
Right.
retreat space, but using it as a business too.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Like an Airbnb type of
that's just my energy. So who knows what
other people
everybody else
may love
is
it.
bringing to
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not all cursed.
Exactly. So yeah, you just see how it goes as a rental moving forward.
Yeah.
So let's dive a little bit into like how you got into your work. I'm not sure like what type of work you were doing, but you're doing human design,
Hmm.
homeopathy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and working with mothers. And I read your chapter and it touched upon so many things. And before we started recording, yeah, I told you about how I studied to be a doula. I never became a doula, but it was natural childbirth was something that intrigued me about a decade ago. Manifesting generator here, just jumping into everything that interests me. And then the postpartum depression, which I've come across
Hmm.
so many mothers, including one of my cousins that took her life because of it. So in your chapter, you touch
I'm so
upon that.
sorry.
And I really commend you for diving deeper and helping women with these natural remedies. So yeah, if you could talk about that work, the important work that you do.
On a personal note, as my chapter went into, I never thought about having kids. I was also never with a partner that I probably felt fully comfortable with. Like I needed to be with somebody who was going to be really equal 50-50 because I would consider myself a pretty hypersensitive person. And so even today, even with my own tools, like I get pretty overwhelmed with the kids. I've got a 4.5-year-old and a 1-year-old. And there's days where I feel really overwhelmed. I can't do it and I'm not doing a good job. Everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
But when I had my daughter, I really started prioritizing my health. And then obviously I was pregnant, so I stopped drinking alcohol. And that was like, that lifted a huge veil in front of my eyes. And then it just really kept being a catalyst into learning more, learning more. And I was not one to put my nose up at any drugs. Like
Yeah.
in my former life before being pregnant, I definitely had my experimentation and I partied a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
But yet somehow I was very attracted to this natural childbirth process and learning about all that. And then from learning about, you only have so much time to learn about that. And I even worked with the doula as well and did classes and read a lot of books, but
Yeah.
by no means was I prepared for what happened after. And then discovering Kundalini yoga, and then discovering the human design and discovering homeopathy, that just really opened up the world into getting very deeply connected to
Mm.
yourself. And then having my son was just like a whole new experience that was just seemed more enlightening. So the point I wanted to make though was I've tried to get support for my mental health, and through insurance, especially Kaiser in California, like you go through an intake process and you're asked these questions and you have to check these boxes. And
Mm.
I guess I wasn't really aware of how I needed to really play up. Like maybe I couldn't get through the day, or
Yeah.
I needed to say I was suicidal or whatever. So basically in going through mental health intakes, I
They were just
realized
like, "You're
they're like, you
good." Yeah.
yeah, they're like, so you don't have a mental health problem, you have a mental wellness problem. And I was like, so you got nothing for me? And so that's when I started working with more of coaches instead of therapists, because found I was able to get like deeper results, quicker
Right.
results. And it was just life changing. So then the programs I'm putting forth for women are, it really spans and covers the whole person, whether they're dealing with things physically, whether they're dealing with things emotionally or mentally, or on the energetic level. So it's just crazy how there's so much lack of support and lack of truth, honest information out there in the age of technology and information that we live in today.
There is, because I felt it the same way. I'm not a mother like seeking that type of help, but just going to find a therapist, I felt the same way, where it's like, you're fine. You're completely fine. I'm like, but I'm having anxiety. I have this, but it's not bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, so who do I go to? Like, people are saying, go to a therapist, but you're not willing to help me because I don't meet that standard. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
sad. People actually get to the point of reaching out for help, and then the doors get closed on you.
Yeah, it's tough. So either you can't find help, or when you
Mhm.
find help, maybe they're not a great match, or you got to get on a certain schedule. And if something
Right.
comes up, and as a mom, as a new mom, from just myself, when I needed help, I didn't need to wait a week until my appointment. And so I think it's interesting to think about how we can, now with virtually and everybody using WhatsApp groups or Facebook groups or whatever it might be, you have these more instant ways of leaving these voice memos for each other that I
Right.
found like super helpful, right? Even if we're not getting on a live session, I get for myself in programs I've even been on, let alone host that I've participated in, I get so much from being able to leave a 5-minute voice memo. And then within the next 24 hours, I have a group of people
Right.
coming to support me. And it's amazing.
It's real time. Like, you're working through things as they're happening.
It's
Mhm.
real time, even though it's not like you're not on a live discussion like how we are
Mhm.
right now. It is still super effective and really awesome. So it's cool. It's really cool. But for me, I feel it's hard. I want to help so many people. I want to do all these things. It's hard for me to focus. And I think too, that's why I was very inspired to reach out to you and do a session, because how do I try to work with my energies beyond just our tools of our yoga and our other practices that we're using? I use a lot of the homeopathics and flower essences to call in that energy. Ooh, which that might be cool. I might have to look into the flowers,
like where they're
from
from.
the regions. Yeah.
That.
So that just gave me that just came. But yeah, like, how do I be aware of these energies that we're talking about and utilize them for also being of service more? Because
Exactly.
it's hard to sometimes develop a great program.
And that's why we are kind of on the same path, where you got into HD, human design. I actually got in through Reiki, and then I didn't know how to use that in my own unique way. And the astrogeography was like that missing puzzle piece. And that's how I started doing sessions. But yeah,
that's so cool.
But incorporating them and weaving them together does get difficult, because I also bring in Ayurveda, which could be like an oddball type of thing. Like, wait, but Ayurveda also works with the chakras, with the energies of the body. So there are some common threads through everything that I do. It's all energetic work, but it's energetic work within the body, the energies outside the body, which are the planetary energies. Finding that common ground allows you to weave everything together without niching yourself down to something that isn't your most authentic self.
Right. And that resonates really deeply, because if you think about the energy work that you do, and like support, if I needed support, feel it when I'm working through those opportunities of healing or the disharmonious lines, it's not like we want to change or avoid ourselves. Our cells are crystallized by the geometry of the stars, and there's nothing we can do to change that. And then we have all the transits and everything, and the people and the places we're around that are affecting us.
Exactly.
But we just want to smooth out the edges that we experience. Sometimes we have to get cut by those edges, and that's what's going to happen. But sometimes we just want help. And I think that's where your energy work like comes in to help to smooth it out.
Right.
Do you feel that way?
I do. And especially with my work, the cosmic roadmap, you also are in your chapter mentioned a roadmap, right? Creating a roadmap with the work that you do. That kind of hit me. I was like, oh yes, we're both creating roadmaps with our own modalities. But yeah, the cosmic roadmap is essentially something fixed, because the planetary energies on your astro maps don't change. But you did mention the transits. So if you work along with the transits, you can smooth out the energies of, your particular place, or by going to a certain place to smooth out whatever may be going in, in your business or in your life too.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Or working with that energy from a distance too. Yeah, like you're incorporating those Pinterest boards or those external influences.
Yeah, I think the jewelry like you are wearing is a really great idea to play with. But yeah, immediately after our session, I just went to look at Pinterest and feel what it feels like, right?
And what were some of the places that you were looking at? What are the boards that you've created?
Yeah, so Morocco is one of them. I'm even looking at what kind of retreats or what kind of like activities or offerings are in Morocco, not just let me see all the mosaic tiles and the traditional like aesthetic stuff. I was going and I was looking at, well, what can Morocco offer like in more of a holistic wellness sense? What sort of teachings are available there? That's what it got me thinking of, because what can I actually learn from Morocco instead of
from the culture, from the people there,
from the people, instead of just being like, let me go and see what can I take from Morocco,
exploiting
instead of like, how can I go there and really learn and absorb something that has value, instead of just these Instagrammable pictures, which a beauty, it all serves a purpose. But I think for me in learning, and for me, it's really important for me to understand my purpose and dharma a little bit more deeply, get connected to it a little bit more, because I feel for the first 34 years of my life, I was very disconnected from that. So now I'm trying to get connected. And this is a part of getting connected.
Exactly. And Morocco in particular, you had Jupiter energy, which is all about luck and ease. And that one was an MC, like when you look on the astro maps, and it's all about the future, the career. So it was interesting that you're like, I've never been drawn to Morocco. And it's because it's really meant to come up in your future as part of your career.
So interesting.
So mentioning, oh, I want to connect with the culture. It may be related to textiles, like artisanal things. So yeah, going deeper into that and seeing like what you can discover, that'll be beautiful to connect with that energy of the local artisans.
Yeah, I'm excited to explore that more and see what comes of it.
Yeah. And then the other place was Tanzania. That one was your moon node, your north node, which is your purpose line. So seeing what you have there. And Bozeman, Montana was another like random place that you were looking at also to move to. And that's where you also had your moon node or your north node line. Yeah. So maybe connecting just locally, right, to somewhere near you to see what unfolds, because connecting with the moon node, it allows you to unlock and peel back the layers to see what you're meant to do here.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like I noticed when that show Yellowstone came on, I don't know if you watch any of that, but that is like somewhat of a popular show, and it's like all about the Yellowstone and that whole area, and Montana is part of that. And I remember watching that and I just felt very ignited by the
activated
scenery. Yeah, like watching the show. It wasn't about the whole cowboy stuff or anything like that, just the landscape was just very breathtaking to me, and I've never been there. And then there's a beautiful woman that I've connected with. Her name's Kurban Devi, and she's a yoga teacher, and she's in Bozeman, Montana, coincidentally, when I was like, I've just been thinking about Montana. And she's like, I live in Montana. And I just felt very like connected. I was like very interested, and I wanted to just know more about the area. So I did feel naturally drawn to it.
Yeah, I'm connected to her on Facebook somehow because we're all in the same circles. Yeah, that name like rings a bell. Yeah.
Same Kundalini circle. Yeah, so just beautiful energy, and there's something that just seems important to visit, at least visit.
Yeah, and that's why I do encourage the embodiment part would be to watch a documentary, watch a YouTube video of a certain place, because you never know what visuals, what people say, or like what cultural things may activate something in you that may activate, you know, at a soul level. Yeah, that's really beautiful that you felt that. So how can people find you? What are the offerings that you have available? Yeah, like how can people work with your medicine?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Lyndsey_Harper. I'm sure you'll have it in the show notes. LyndseyHarper.com, also my website. You can work with me one-on-one through motherhood support sessions for my moms, or if you're just interested about human design or homeopathy, I have some different services through that. And then I'll be offering some group programs and launching those here pretty soon. I'm just a typical, I'm a 1-3, I'm an investigator, I'm a martyr. And so I always feel like I need more research. I need to prepare more before I do something. I'm my own worst critic. And then I got to do a lot of trial and error before I feel ready for stuff. And that resonates deeply with me. Hopefully I'll have some of these other things launched, but that's how everybody can work with me.
Yeah, amazing. I think I'm a 1-3 also, so I need to go back and check my chart, but definitely, yeah, a lot of research. That's why I became an engineer. Yeah, love the research.
You just gotta do, no looking back.
No, now I just trial and error and just do. Yeah. So I love that. Thank you so much for being on today. And
oh, thank you. So thank you, Melissa. Yeah, this was so helpful. I love it. Thank you.
And remember, lineage goes beyond your ancestors. You are meant to connect to the cosmos so you may finally find your cosmic family. Until next time. Thank you for listening to Cosmic Roadmap. If you're curious about astrogeography and where you're meant to be on the planet, Go to cosmicroadmap.com to download your free passport to purpose. You can also book a session with me where we can explore your own cosmic roadmap and chart your next destination in business, love, and life.